Of all the unproduced Alien sequels, the most fascinating of all, for a variety of reasons, undoubtedly has to be Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5. Certainly because it's the most fresh in all of our minds, and because it was so close to actually being made. It was announced in 2015, cancelled in 2017, and many fans are still holding out hope that it may still find its way to being made. This is especially true as of late, with a substantial amount of newly released concept art that has found its way online. Geoffroy Thoorens, who worked with Neil Blomkamp on the film pre-production, recently revealed some more of his concept art for the cancelled project. This art contained glimpses of key scenes, characters, and new creatures that likely would have been included in the film. This all holds a key to offering further clues as to what the actual plot of Alien 5 may have been, which still remains a mystery. As of yet, there's been no release or leak of the screenplay, treatment, or even the official title that Blomkamp had in mind. We may never know for sure what the plot of Alien 5 may have been, at least not in the immediate future. But with the newly released concept art, I thought it might be worthwhile to take a look and consider the possibilities. This is purely speculation on my part, the best guesses possible based on the art and based on the descriptions Thoorens has provided. One thing we know for certain, at least, is that Blomkamp's film was intended as a direct follow-up to Aliens, the James Cameron film. Based on interviews Blomkamp has given, this is where the story takes place continuity-wise, and the film would essentially disregard Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. It should be noted, though, that he didn't necessarily want to give the impression that those films would be axed from continuity entirely. In a 2015 interview with Alyssane, he said, "I want to make a film that's connected to Alien and Aliens. That's my goal. I'm not trying to undo Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. I just want it to be connected to Alien 1 and 2. Whether he was just being tactful in respecting the work of David Fincher and Jean-Pierre Jeunet and the fans of those films, or if there may have been a plot element that justifies new continuity, is a whole other matter of speculation. With Alien being a science fiction horror franchise, there doesn't seem to be too much that would be off the table. Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection being a hypersleep nightmare has always been a popular workaround, if not completely innovative. Maybe time travel, maybe an alternate universe, take your pick. But more likely than not, I'm willing to bet that the plot of the film simply just takes place after the events of Aliens with no acknowledgement to the other films, and despite Blomkamp not intending to undo them, that would be, in essence, what it does anyway. We also know, of course, that there was an intention to bring back Ripley and Hicks. Needless to say, the actors Sigourney Weaver and Michael Biehn are much older, and the characters appear as such in the concept art. This new story could have been intended to take place anywhere between 20 to 35 years after the events of Aliens. From Blomkamp's own concept art, posted to social media on Alien Day 2016, it also seems that an adult Newt appears at some point. The character is featured in only one piece of art, very much looking like actress Carrie Henn as she is today. Since we don't see Newt in any of the other concept art, I think it's a good enough assumption to make that this role would have been limited, even if just a brief cameo. With that in mind, we can at least hope Blomkamp had the good taste to let her live this time around. In seeing the return of our beloved Aliens characters, one also may be wondering what everyone's favorite evil company, Weyland-Yutani, has been up to all these years. We can assume that the company is back as well. While there's no visible clues in the artwork itself with the familiar Weyland-Yutani branding, one of the key concept art pieces comes with the caption, Weyland. In the broadest sense of things, it looks like Alien 5 would have been about Weyland-Yutani attaining xenomorph specimens and Ripley and Hicks trying to stop them. In one of the earliest pieces of concept art shared, we've seen that one of the Croissant ships, similar to the derelict from Alien, seems to be in the company's possession. The ship differs in appearance from the other times we've seen it, and is coated in a ghastly resin not unlike what we've seen in a xenomorph hive. They're also in possession of an alien queen, which was also seen in the earlier released concept art. The primary location for the story seems to take place in what is likely a Weyland-Yutani facility, a towering building located in a city which could possibly be Earth. Two pieces give us an impression of just how grand this building really is. It's reasonable enough to assume the action is taking place within this gargantuan facility. Within, there's a lush green area full of plant life where we see the Queen, and where there is a mysterious piece of technology. This must be of great significance to the plot, as not only does it seem to match the shape of the building, but we can also see in one of the concept pieces that Ripley and Hicks are viewing some kind of map out of it. Either this piece of technology or the building itself. My guess is that in addition to acquiring one of the Croissant ships, the Weyland-Yutani team is also trying to find some way of contacting the alien race that pilots them. I think this artifact may play into that, as may be what looks like an advanced satellite or space station depicted in another piece of concept art captioned Montero. You may recall that Blomkamp did actually have discussions with Ridley Scott about the project regarding the continuity. During Alien 5's conception, Alien Covenant was yet to be released, and Blomkamp didn't want his story to conflict with anything Scott was setting up. So it's very possible Alien 5 could have seen a return of the engineer species, or at the very least featured plot elements about trying to understand their technology and or trying to make contact with them. If this is in fact a story where none of the events of Alien 3 ever took place, then whatever may have happened immediately after the events of Aliens could be left a mystery or possibly explained in some exposition to catch us up in the decades that have passed. Likely whatever briefings Ripley may have had after the Hadley's Hope incident, whatever information she may have conveyed about Burke's misdeeds during the mission, were met with a less than satisfactory reaction on Ripley's part. This could have caused her to become radicalized over the years, causing her and Hicks to place their trust into mercenaries. In one of the earlier released concept pieces, we see Ripley and Hicks in conversation with one such mercenary. The title is simply Mercenaries. In another newly released piece, we get a better look at the group of mercenaries. They're heavily armed, they carry ample weaponry, even keeping attack dogs with them. You'll notice there isn't one unifying emblem adorned on their armor. There are varying flags and insignia. This could suggest that this isn't a group of mercenaries working for a rival company for the sake of corporate espionage, but a group of like-minded people from all corners of the universe. Likely, just like Ripley and Hicks, these mercenaries want to destroy the specimens in Weyland-Yutani's possession. It looks as if there's an off-the-grid rendezvous point in a body of water based on the piece titled Anchor and another titled Jets Arriving. Clearly, they're preparing for something big. They're preparing missiles via the return of the classic power loader, and we even see Ripley geared up with a smart gun. Whatever the specifics of this mission might be, it's clear enough that the infiltration of the Weyland-Yutani building plays the biggest part of the plot, as much of the remaining art appears to take place there. With all of the resources at their disposal, it's hard to say if this team has brought an artificial person along with them, or if it's something acquired later on within the building. Based on the titles, there appear to be at least two synthetics named here, Jax and Kilson. I'd guess that the synthetic was a later acquisition based on another concept piece titled Johnson Knocks Jax and Gland Removal, where Hicks is performing crude surgery on a synthetic. Perhaps there is a way to operate on a company android and change its protocols, using this to their advantage as they make their way through the facility. All throughout Thoorens' art, there are suggestions of some pretty interesting set pieces. Ripley floating in the water, surrounded by the makings of an alien hive. The discovery of a cocooned human and a shocked Ripley looking on. The reveal of an alien inside a ventilation shaft. Acid eating through bombs, likely to lead to a disastrous event. A lab inside the facility containing xenomorph eggs with monitors of some kind attached, and technicians being held at gunpoint. There's also the reveal of a fascinating new creature. According to the art title, this is called the Trematode. It's a worm-like beast, somewhat reminiscent of the Hammerpede from Prometheus, and it can pierce into the flesh of its victim, possibly implanting its own special breed of embryonic makeup. One moment shows a character named Miller, pinned down by a mechanical closing door, struggling as one of the Trematodes makes its way to him. It slithers its way to his lower torso, aims its fangs, or whatever you'd like to call them, and cuts into his stomach, making its way inside. We also see Hicks facing off against one of the Trematodes. He's aiming a unique weapon that apparently has been developed by or acquired by Weyland-Yutani in their research. The creature makes its way to Hicks, attempting to pierce its way into his neck as he struggles and grasps at it. This looks to be a pretty close call. Maybe he doesn't make it out of this predicament. Another piece of concept art, presumably the same scene, shows Ripley on the other side of a door, looking in at Miller. What's interesting is that this piece is titled Facehugger's Birthing, which certainly raises some questions. We don't see any of the traditional facehuggers in the image, but upon a closer look we do see smaller spider-like creatures which can also be found in the acid melting piece. Perhaps Blomkamp has devised a way to reinvent the facehugger to make it more surprising for audiences and fans already familiar with the alien life cycle. Possibly this trematode parasite is able to enter a host, implant the makings of these tiny facehuggers, which then birth from the host. This would make for an interesting twist on the life cycle, and enough of these little facehuggers running around could make for some serious danger. As fast and as agile as we've seen the facehugger to be, we also have seen that they can be subdued and they can be taken down. A smaller target, especially if numbering in the dozens if not hundreds, would make the task a lot more difficult. And as we've come to learn from the nature of the facehugger, it isn't necessarily implanting an embryo, but rather the makings of one, using the host DNA to develop the tumorous alien embryo inside the chest. So if enough of these tiny facehuggers find a host, biting and injecting these same makings, then the same end result could be achieved. I think that would be a good and unpredictable twist, but this is of course just speculation. It's also speculation that Hicks would fall victim to these creatures in the second-to-last act, but a lot more of the art shows Ripley on her own. We see hints at another set piece where Ripley gears up in a fire suit, makes her way through what appears to be an underwater pipe system, and emerges inside an incinerator. What it all seems to be leading toward is another classic confrontation between Ripley and the alien queen. Some of the earlier concept art, released from Blomkamp, hinted at Ripley gearing up in a special kind of biological exosuit made from the aliens. We see more of that here in the newly released Thoorens art. I have no doubt in my mind that this would have made for an incredible scene. If there's one area where Blomkamp excels, where he seems to feel right at home, it's in those exosuit showdowns. This, I'm sure, would have been his magnum opus. This scene, I can assume, would have been the climax of the movie, and obviously echoing the battle between Ripley and the Queen at the end of Aliens. All throughout, I'm sure we'd get little nods here and there. Some may argue it's too much fan service, maybe not quite original enough, but based on all I've seen and all I can imagine, it looks to be exactly what you'd expect from a Niell Blomkamp alien film. Whether you may personally feel that's a positive or negative thing is up to you. This all begs the question, though. Has the art been released to spark up some more interest for fans and any close-watching Disney executives in the hopes to resurrect the project? Or did Thoorens release it just because it's really damn cool art, and maybe with Blomkamp's blessing released it without the worries of spoiling it any longer since it will not be made? Is the project undoubtedly 100% dead at this point, never to happen? I don't know. Personally, I don't think we'll end up seeing it. I think it is in the rear view now, and I know I'd love to see more about it. I'd love to at least get a chance to read the screenplay or the treatment and learn more about this lost project, as we've learned about others. With all this art, and possibly even more yet to be released, I think it could at least make for a great illustrated screenplay release that I'm sure fans would just eat up. Maybe a comic book adaptation, as we've seen with William Gibson's Lost Alien 3, even an audio drama, which we've also seen with that project. In some form, I'd like to see it realized. But what do you think? Could it possibly still get made? Is it still something you'd like to see? Or would you like to see it live on in some other form? Or are you happy with it right where it is? Please comment below and share your thoughts on that, and also let me know your own guesses to the plot based on this concept art. And as always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and be sure to subscribe for all the latest from Alien Theory. A very special thanks goes out to Alyssane, Queen Tier of the Patreon Hive. A very special, super grateful thanks goes to my alien friend and yours, Lady Anne, in the Ellen Ripley Tier of Excellence. Thank you for your support, enthusiasm, and friendship, Jessica. Stay frosty. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. And in the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow at @alien_theory on Twitter and at @AlienTheoryYT on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.